got a secret vasectomy 2 months ago because my wife refused birth control. Now she says she's pregnant and calls it a miracle, but I know that's impossible. Hey everyone, before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. So here's the deal. I'm a 35-year-old dude, and I've been happily married to my wife, who's 33, for a solid 10 years now. We've got 2 awesome kids who are 8 and 6 years old. And frankly, we've always talked about how we felt our little family was totally complete after our second child. I mean, I was really firm about not wanting any more kids. Honestly, 2 kids already feel like a whirlwind, and I thought, that's plenty of chaos for me. Now, my wife comes from a more religious background than I do, and her take on this whole situation was pretty laid back. She said, if God wants us to have another, it's gonna happen. She wasn't too keen on going on birth control, or even considering me getting snipped. To her, it all seemed like it should just be left up to fate. I totally get where she's coming from, and I respect her beliefs to a certain point. But at the same time, I wasn't super comfortable with just leaving it all to chance or whatever divine plan she believed in. So, about 2 months back, I made a big decision on my own and went ahead and got a vasectomy. Yep, that's right. I didn't tell her a thing. Looking back, I realize now just how huge of a thing that was to keep under wraps. We've had our fair share of debates about having another baby, and she was definitely not on board with the idea of anything permanent when it came to birth control. She always argued that it felt like it was going against God's plan. I tried to reason with her about how we didn't really have the resources or the energy for another little one, but she would usually just back off the conversation with that whole, if it's meant to be, it'll be line of thinking. Honestly, that logic made me a bit uneasy because, to me, it meant she wasn't really doing anything to actively prevent another pregnancy. I was on and off with condoms, but we both really hated using them, so there were times we might have gotten a little careless. I figured it was time to take control, so I went ahead and got the vasectomy. It all went smoothly, thankfully. I took a couple of days off work, telling her I was on a work trip and had a buddy cover for me. Sure, I felt a bit sore afterward, but I masked the pain pretty well. When she came home with the kids, I was just lounging on the couch, pretending I had a stomach bug for a day. After that, everything went back to normal, and she was none the wiser. For her, it was business as usual, just trusting that we were leaving it all in God's hands, while I internally knew I had pretty much eliminated the chance of another baby. Now, fast forward to just 2 days ago. My wife comes running to me, practically glowing, with a positive pregnancy test in her hand. She was so excited, waving it in my face and giving me a big hug. My first thought was just how on earth I didn't blurt something stupid right out. I kind of went into shock mode. I played it cool and asked, "Wow, really? Are you sure?" She showed me 2 positive home tests, and her excitement was through the roof. She just couldn't stop talking about how this must be fate, or that it was a miracle and that God must want us to have another baby. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience listening to her. Inside, I was thinking, this can't be possible unless I'm not the dad, but I couldn't bring myself to say that out loud. I just kept nodding along and suggested we should schedule a doctor's appointment to confirm all this, and I kept mentioning how unexpected it was. She kept rambling on about how wild it was that this happened when we weren't even trying, and that I had been careful as far as she knew. The truth is, I had been using condoms here and there before the vasectomy, but after I got snipped, I got a bit lax since I knew I was sterile. At least she didn't notice any difference. I was utterly lost on how to react. I didn't want to blow up and start accusing her of cheating, especially since I had my own big secret to keep. So, I pretended to go along for the rest of the day in front of the kids, congratulating her and managing a half smile, saying something like, well, if it's God's plan, I guess it's happening. Meanwhile, inside, I was freaking out. That night was rough. I couldn't sleep at all. I was lying next to her, mind racing a million miles a minute, while she was sound asleep, totally relaxed. Now, I'm sharing this because I feel completely stuck. If my vasectomy worked, and it should have, I haven't done the follow-up sperm count yet, which means there's virtually no way that this pregnancy is mine. There's a tiny chance the procedure could have failed, or maybe it hasn't fully kicked in yet. After all, it's only been about 8 weeks since I got snipped. I know they usually say to test after 12 weeks to be sure, but I followed all the doctor's guidance, and the odds of failure are super low. Still, my gut is telling me that something is very off, and the phrase, miracles happen, is echoing in my mind, but not in a positive light. So here I am. I haven't confronted my wife about any of this yet. Right now, she has absolutely no clue that I had the vasectomy, and she thinks I'm just in shock about the surprise pregnancy, which is somewhat true. I'm walking around in a daze, acting all quiet and tired. I really need some advice on how to deal with this. Should I come clean and tell her I got a vasectomy and demand an explanation? That would drop a bombshell on this whole thing because she'd realize I kept something huge from her. Or should I just wait it out and get a paternity test once the baby is born? Maybe I could even do something while she's still pregnant. But I know if I bring up the idea of a paternity test, it'll make it obvious that I don't trust her and could imply I think she's been unfaithful. What a mess, right? I'm just trying to figure out the best way to navigate this whole situation without causing more chaos than there already is. Man, this situation is really eating me up inside, and it feels like it could completely blow up my life, whether or not my wife actually cheated. Honestly, I'm in such a tough place right now. Every time I glance at my kids, this sick feeling washes over me as I wonder, how is this going to impact their lives? If I decide to confront my wife and it spirals into a massive fight or worse, a breakup, their whole world could come crashing down too. It's just too much to think about. On top of that, I haven't told a single soul about my vasectomy or the doubts I have swirling around in my head. I can't bring myself to talk to friends or family about this. I mean, how do you even start that conversation? And approaching our pastor about it? No way, especially since we only go to church occasionally, primarily for her sake. So, here I am just throwing all of this out there anonymously on the internet, trying to figure out what I should do about this whole mess. I really need some guidance on how to approach my wife about this unexpected miracle baby situation. Should I just go ahead and get a sperm count done first to make sure that my vasectomy actually worked? I've got an appointment scheduled for next week, the earliest they could get me in, and I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around it all. I have this impulse to just lay it all out for her. Like, listen, I had a vasectomy, and either I'm somehow part of that rare 0.1% where it didn't take, or something else is definitely going on here. But I want to be careful and avoid blowing up my life if I'm not completely sure yet. Here's a little update for you all. A lot of you suggested that I check my fertility again to confirm whether the vasectomy actually took before doing anything rash, and I'm on board with that. My appointment is coming up in a few days, so I'm still just waiting for that. I'm keeping an open mind about it, as tough as that is. Some folks also recommended holding off on any big confrontations until I have more concrete information, and I'm trying my best to take that advice. I'm not going to lie, though. The last couple of days have felt like a pressure cooker inside my head, even if I'm doing my best not to let it show on the outside. Since I posted last, I haven't outright accused my wife of anything or revealed my secret. What I did was gently bring up how unexpected this whole pregnancy is. This morning, while we were having breakfast together, I casually mentioned, "This is so wild. We were really careful. I honestly didn't think another pregnancy was even a possibility." I kind of tiptoed around the topic, hoping she might say something that would shed some light on things. But she just shrugged it off with a smile, saying, "I know, right? It's unbelievable. Miracles happen when you least expect them." Then she placed my hand on her belly and said she was feeling blessed. Inside, I was battling a whirlwind of thoughts, but I managed to just give her a half-hearted smile, trying not to reveal how I really felt. Later on, she asked me if I was happy about the baby, and you could tell she was a little insecure about it, like she was worried that I might not be on board with this. I did my best to reassure her without fully diving into my own confusion. I told her that I was still processing the surprise, but that I love our kids and I'm here for her. Honestly, it felt super awkward, and I probably came off as a bit cold because she seemed a bit upset. She said something like, "I know you weren't expecting this, but I really need you to be on board with this. It's a blessing for us." All I could really do was nod and say something like, "Yeah, it's just going to take me a little time to wrap my head around it." She dropped the topic, but I could tell she sensed that I wasn't exactly jumping for joy. I feel kind of bad for acting weird around her. I'm really not a good actor at all. Whenever she brings up anything about the pregnancy, like thinking about names or whether it might be a boy this time, I probably look like a deer caught in headlights. I usually just mumble something vague like, "maybe," or "we'll see," and then try to change the subject. I also suggested that we should hold off on telling anyone else until we get it confirmed by a doctor. She wanted to share the news with the kids and her sister right away, but I hesitated and proposed that we wait for the first ultrasound. One commenter here mentioned the chance of a false positive or some medical error, so I used that as an excuse, saying I'd rather hear it directly from a doctor first. She agreed, though I could tell she was a tad disappointed that I wasn't ready to announce it to the world just yet. I think she chalks it up to me being cautious or just not as religious as she is. And here's the thing, I still haven't told her about the vasectomy. I'm really dreading that conversation because it's going to feel like my accusation of her cheating, but it's also going to make me look like the bad guy for hiding something so significant. I know that some of you see where I'm coming from and might be critical of me keeping that secret from her, and that's fair enough. I totally get it. It was a lousy decision on my part and a sign of bigger communication issues in our marriage. Trust me, I never wanted to find myself in this kind of predicament. I should have just manned up and had a heart-to-heart with her about it, instead of keeping it all under wraps. I'm really kicking myself for that now, because if I had been open from the start, we wouldn't be in such a tangled mess right now. As it stands, I haven't found any concrete evidence of infidelity. I know some people suggested I do a little snooping, like checking her phone and such, and I'll admit, I did sneak a peek at her phone last night while she was in the shower. But honestly, I didn't see anything alarming. No strange texts or suspicious contacts. The messages were mostly between her and her sister, some friends from mom's groups, and a group chat with our neighbors about typical neighborhood stuff. We have a neighborhood WhatsApp group where we share things like lost pets or community events. Nothing there raised any red flags that screamed affair. I didn't find any messages with guys that looked fishy either, but I also know that if she is hiding something, she could easily delete messages or use a secret app to cover her tracks. So that quick look didn't give me much to work with. There was one thing that did catch my attention in that neighborhood group chat a few weeks ago, our next-door neighbor's wife. So here's the deal. Mary, our neighbor, mentioned she'd be heading out of town for a while, right? Meanwhile, my wife thought it would be super nice to lend a hand to John, the husband next door, with some yard work since he's been dealing with a shoulder injury. Honestly, I kind of remember her stopping by one afternoon to help him out while I was off at work. At that moment, it struck me as just a sweet neighborly gesture. You know how it is. Everyone gets along pretty well, and the kids often play together. However, now that I'm thinking about it more, my mind is racing, connecting dots that probably don't even connect. It's probably nothing significant, just some friendly help between neighbors. But here I am, getting all paranoid about my wife being alone with John while both their partners are away. It's a pretty dreadful thought, and I feel guilty even for having it because John has always been a great friend. Plus, Mary and my wife are pretty close, so it makes this whole situation even sillier. I really hate that this whole thing has me suspicious of everyone around me. I haven't confronted John or done anything out of line, and I don't plan to unless I stumble upon something concrete pointing in that direction. Right now, I'm just stuck in this endless loop of overthinking everything. For all I know, this could be one of those miraculous one-in-a-million situations, and I'm just going to end up feeling like a total fool. Emotionally, I'm all over the place, but I'm trying to keep it together. When I'm alone, like right now, as I'm typing all this from my car during my lunch break, I can't help but run through all the worst-case scenarios. But when I'm with my wife, I do my best to act like everything's normal. It's exhausting, honestly. Looking ahead, I've got an appointment scheduled in a few days to get a semen analysis done. And we also have an OB/GYN appointment coming up early next week to confirm her pregnancy and check in on everything. My plan is to listen to what the doctor has to say and see my results. If, by some wild chance, I find out I'm not sterile, well, that's a whole different can of worms. I'll probably be apologizing to my wife for doubting her, and then having to figure out how to deal with the fallout from my secret vasectomy. But if, as I suspect, the results show 0 sperm, then at least I'll have my answer. So far, nothing dramatic has happened. I'm just in this holding pattern, trying to be the supportive husband until I gather more facts. I'm literally praying for clarity, though I'm not even the religious type, hoping that either I'm wrong about this whole situation, or something gives me a break soon. Living with this nagging doubt while putting on a smile is just brutal. Now for the update. Well, I finally got my semen analysis results back, and here's the quick scoop. My sperm count is 0. Yup, no swimmers at all. The lab tech even casually said, looks like the vasectomy was a success. If my wife is genuinely pregnant, there's almost no chance I'm the biological father. Just 2 days ago, we went to her OB appointment together, and I was trying to be all supportive while keeping my thoughts under wraps. The doctor confirmed her pregnancy through an ultrasound, and it turns out she's about 7 weeks along. That puts conception somewhere around 5 to 6 weeks ago. I distinctly remember being swamped with work around that time, and we barely had any intimate moments. Maybe once, if that. I didn't dare bring up my vasectomy or any of my suspicions during that appointment. Definitely not the right time for that kind of chat in front of a doctor. So, we probably looked like your typical happy couple, soaking in the news. My wife even squeezed my hand when we saw the ultrasound, and I squeezed back. But inside, my mind was racing a mile a minute. After we got home from that appointment, I felt like I couldn't keep quiet anymore. The combination of the confirmed pregnancy, the timeline, and my lab results just weighed too heavily on me. That evening, after the kids were tucked in, I told her we needed to have a serious talk. We settled down together in the living room, and I just laid it all out there. I told her about the vasectomy I had a little over 2 months ago. I've never seen her look so utterly confused and shocked. She went pale and was like, "What are you talking about?" I explained my reasoning for the vasectomy. We had both agreed we didn't want any more kids, but she was against using birth control. So, in a moment of anxiety about an accidental pregnancy, I went ahead and did it. She just sat there, stunned, and I felt I needed to keep going. That's when she flipped out on me for lying about the vasectomy, saying I'd betrayed her and was playing God with our family. I let her have her moment of anger for a minute before I interjected. I said that I understood she was upset about my secret, but the real issue was how this pregnancy didn't add up given my recent procedure. She insisted that vasectomies can fail and accused me of essentially calling her a cheater since I never wanted another baby. I tried to stay calm, explaining that I was just stating facts, that I shouldn't be able to conceive. If she hadn't been unfaithful, then this situation was literally a once-in-a-billion chance of something going wrong. She kept focusing on how, if I hadn't lied about the vasectomy, none of this drama would be happening. It felt like she was flipping the script and putting the blame on me. I told her while I regretted keeping it from her, it still didn't explain how she ended up pregnant. She began sobbing, saying I must hate her and that I didn't want our baby. She was trying to make me feel guilty. Normally, I'd comfort her because I'm that kind of guy, but this time I was just so angry and numb. I laid it all out there saying, "We're definitely going to do a DNA test, no question." She looked at me as if I had just slapped her and asked, "You really think I cheated?" I told her, "I don't know. But science doesn't lie. If you're innocent, you shouldn't worry about a test." She cried out, "You're just going to ruin everything." And I responded, "That might have already happened." After that, she stormed off, and I was left just standing there with my racing thoughts, feeling like everything was spiraling out of control. So, here's what went down. I went into the bedroom and locked the door behind me, feeling this heavy weight in my chest. That night, I didn't sleep in my bed. Instead, I crashed on the couch. Well, I should say I lay there wide awake, just staring up at the ceiling, lost in my thoughts until the first light of morning crept in. Honestly, I have no clue if she managed to sleep at all, but she knows all about the vasectomy and exactly how I feel about everything that's been happening. She's still acting like I'm the crazy one, insisting that I'm just being paranoid, and she outright denies any cheating on her part. The atmosphere in the house is so thick you could cut it with a knife. It's tense and eerily silent. The only conversations we have are the bare minimum, mostly for the kids' sake. I'm standing my ground about the DNA test. This could completely change the game depending on the results. There's a slight chance she might come clean about something before then, but right now, she's digging her heels in deeper. It's been like a never-ending nightmare trying to live like this. I'm basically stuck in this waiting game, feeling like I can't escape until I get to the bottom of the truth. I keep thinking about how I never expected things to escalate like this. Fast forward a few days after that massive blow-up, and honestly, I was starting to think she would never confess. But then, just last night, something shifted. After what felt like an eternity of emotional torture, she finally came clean. The tension had been suffocating. We were like two strangers occupying the same space, only exchanging words when absolutely necessary. I kept hammering home the fact that I was going to get a paternity test, no questions asked. I must have repeated that dozens of times, going through our daily routines. She mostly responded with silence or disbelief, saying things like, "I can't believe this." There were times I caught her crying in the bedroom, totally lost in her own world while I tried to escape the situation by either staying on the couch or stepping out for a breath of fresh air. Then last night, she came to me once the kids were asleep. I was in the living room just trying to keep my mind busy, and she sat down across from me, looking seriously somber. She said we needed to have a talk. Honestly, I braced myself for yet another round of the same arguments, or perhaps her begging me to reconsider the whole DNA test situation. But what she said next? I'll never forget it. She opened up about the affair. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she said, "I have to tell you something. I cheated on you." I just sat there completely stunned into silence. Even though I had suspected something was off, hearing her admit it hit me like a ton of bricks. I could hardly gather my thoughts, so she just kept talking, spilling out everything. She insisted it wasn't a long-term relationship, claiming it happened a couple of times. I was so shocked that I barely moved, and I think that encouraged her to keep going. She admitted it was with our neighbor, John. Yeah, that guy I had suspected all along. Just hearing his name made my stomach churn, and I had to take a deep breath to steady myself. She was crying, saying how deeply sorry she was, claiming it all started about 2 months ago when he injured his shoulder and his wife, Mary, was out of town. So my worst fears about that day I mentioned were apparently spot on. She went to help him, and things spiraled out of control. She assured me it wasn't an emotional affair, that she didn't love him or anything along those lines. It was just a dumb, selfish mistake, she said, and after those few times, she made up her mind to end it. I sat there, mostly in shock and numbness, and finally managed to ask the question that had been gnawing at me. Why? How could you do this? She broke down even more, claiming it wasn't about loving him, but more about her feeling lonely and unwanted. She said she had been struggling with feeling down about the idea that I'd never want an other child, and that made her feel like I didn't trust or respect her feelings. She even brought up how I've been so focused on work lately, which, honestly, I had noticed but didn't think it had gotten this serious. Part of me found it hard to wrap my head around all of her reasons, and I just kept staring at her, feeling a mix of confusion and disbelief, thinking, who even are you right now? Then, the burning question slipped out. Is the baby his? The look on her face was pure misery as she replied, I don't know. She confessed that she and John had only been together twice, right around the time she likely conceived. The tears were flowing as she said that when she found out she was pregnant, she had genuinely hoped it would be mine. I wanted to believe it was a miracle. I really did. I was scared, she said. And when I mentioned the paternity test, she realized that the truth was going to come out eventually, and that idea terrified her to the core. At that moment, I felt like I was just floating outside my body, observing everything unfold. There was no yelling or anger this time. I had somehow moved past all of that into this cold, detached state. I asked her directly, do Mary and John know that you're telling me this? Does John know you're pregnant? She said no, that she hadn't breathed a word to John about the pregnancy. Apparently, he was completely in the dark about it. She claimed she ended whatever fling they had right after that second time and had been trying to avoid him since. Then she pleaded with me not to throw away our marriage, saying she'd do anything to make things right. Counseling, fixing her mistakes, she seemed desperate to hold on to what we had. She even suggested that if it would help, I could go out and have my own fling to even the score, which honestly just broke my heart. It felt like our marriage had turned into some kind of twisted tit-for-tat situation. I listened to her tearful confession, asking a few more questions here and there, but I didn't respond much beyond that. After she laid everything out, I quietly said, "I need you to leave me alone right now." And then I just sat there, trying to process everything. So, here's what went down. I got up this morning, grabbed my keys, and just left the house without thinking twice. I'm currently parked in the lot of a motel, which feels kind of strange because I didn't even bother to check into a room. I just found a quiet spot, sat in my car for a while, and thought about everything that's been happening. Honestly, I felt like I needed to write this down because right now, I'm at a total loss for what my next move should be. It's like my life has split right down the middle, and I never thought I'd actually be living this nightmare. Sure, I had my suspicions that something was off, but having the truth confirmed hit me like a ton of bricks. It's surreal and painful all at once. Like, I expected it, but knowing it's real and true just hurts so deeply. I'm completely devastated, guys. Right now, I'm trying to keep the pain at arm's length. There are still practical things I need to handle, and I don't want to get lost in all this sadness when I have responsibilities to attend to. But let's be real. I know it's only a matter of time before the emotional wave crashes down on me. I haven't talked to her since I walked out. My phone is blowing up with missed calls and texts from her, too. Some of them are apologetic, others are pleading for me to come home and work things out, and then there's one that just says, "I love you, please don't do this." I just can't bring myself to respond. I needed a night away to clear my thoughts. Now, there's also the issue with the neighbors. Ugh, John. What a backstabbing jerk. He's not only a neighbor, he's someone I considered a friend, and he betrayed me too. I can't wrap my head around it. Mary, his wife, is completely in the dark about all of this, at least as far as I know. It's weighing heavily on me that she might need to know the truth, but I can't help but think about all the fallout that could come from it. They have kids that play with ours, and I just know this is about to get messy in ways I can't even imagine right now. For the time being, I think I'll stick around here in the motel parking lot a little longer. I might head back home later and try to get some sleep, probably on the couch or maybe even in the guest room. Honestly, I'm not sure what will feel right. I'm utterly heartbroken, even though, deep down, I knew this day could come. I'll keep everyone updated once I figure out the next steps regarding my marriage and how to handle the whole neighbor situation. Right now, I just need some time to process everything that's unfolded. And thanks to everyone who's been following this saga and offering support, it truly means a lot to me. Writing this out is helping me sort through my jumbled thoughts, even if I haven't had a chance to read any comments or messages yet since everything blew up. Update 4. So, a lot has happened in the aftermath of my wife's confession. Wow, it's been a roller coaster of emotions over the last few days. I'm finally writing this with a clearer mind, or at least as clear as it can be given the situation. I made the tough call to ask my wife to go stay with her sister for the time being. She wasn't thrilled about it, to say the least, but I really didn't have much of a choice. I need some space, and I know for the kids' sake, constant tension in the house wouldn't be healthy. So she's off at her sister's, and I'm home with our kids, trying to keep their daily routine as normal as possible. They don't know everything yet. We've just given them a vague explanation for now. Next on my to-do list was telling Mary, John's wife, about the affair and the pregnancy. It was tough to break that kind of news to anyone, let alone someone I consider a friend. She was completely devastated, but I appreciated her response. She thanked me for being honest with her. Later that evening, she confronted John about it all, and to my surprise, he confessed. She kicked him out on the spot, which was intense. So now, both of our marriages have completely collapsed in the space of just a few days. I also took the step to consult with a divorce attorney because things are getting serious. I'm gearing up to file the papers, and the whole pregnancy situation complicates things legally. In our state, if a baby is born while a couple is married, the law assumes it's the husband's child, which is a huge issue for me. My attorney and I have a plan in place to make sure I'm not held responsible for a child that isn't mine, and we're likely going to do a formal DNA test, maybe even before the baby is born, to document everything properly. At this point, unless some miracle happens, I really can't see a way for me to stay with my wife. The trust is completely shattered. It feels like there's no going back from this. I'm managing, though. Some moments, I find myself okay, focused on the kids or work, but then there are other times when waves of anger and sadness hit me hard and fast. I've started seeing a therapist, which does help a bit. And my main focus right now is making sure the kids are okay. We'll figure out co-parenting as we go, but I'll deal with that when the time comes. My wife keeps pleading with me to give her another chance, but I just can't bring myself to forgive her right now. We mostly only talk about practical stuff and the kids. Our families are aware of the basic situation, and they've been really supportive of me throughout this painful mess. It's a tough situation, but at least the lying is over, and the truth is finally out in the open. Moving forward, my #1 priority is protecting and being there for my kids. I'm determined to shield them from as much of this chaos as possible,